Night has fallen, and the moon is a glowing golden orb in the black sky. See how it shines on the dark back roads of America, and on one road in particular. Come with us, and we'll take a walk down the moonlit road and listen to bone-chilling tales told by some of the nation's best storytellers. Join us now and simply step out, for the night is waiting and the moon is full.
This is Veronica Byrd, and the story I'm going to tell you is called Where Mosquitoes Came From. And if you stick around until the end, I'll tell you where the story came from. You hear that sound? If you've ever spent time in the South, you'll certainly recognize it. That high-pitched buzzing around your ears from one or more pesky winged insects, followed by a painful blood-sucking bite. Ouch! It's the southern mosquito, perhaps the most hated creature on Earth. Native Americans tell a story from long ago, explaining where this irritating insect came from. Their ancestors once told many stories about their natural surroundings, the animals, the weather, the stars in the sky. These stories helped them make sense of the world and showed their immense respect for the power and beauty of nature. But even they drew the line at the mosquito. And the story they tell of its origins is so horrible it befits such a detestable creature. Way back before white settlers arrived, indigenous peoples lived deep in the endless forest of North Carolina. They fished in the rivers as their primary source of food. The air was much cleaner and crisper then. Even better, there were no mosquitoes. One day, a fishing village noticed their trout were disappearing off the drying racks just as soon as they were pulled from the river. Whenever the fishermen turned their backs, something stole their catch and vanished into the forest. This went on for months, depleting the rivers of fish. The starving community grew thin and malnourished. Shortly afterwards, the people themselves began disappearing. When the villagers turned their backs to the forest just for a moment, their mothers, fathers, grandparents would be gone in a flash. Fear spread throughout the community, many staying inside to guard their children. Wild rumors spread of a monster or evil spirits in the woods preying on their villagers. These stories grew so loud, a special council was called of all the neighboring villages, both friends and enemies. They decided to send a search party into the woods to dispel these monster tales once and for all. So one night, the bravest volunteers ventured into the moonlit forest. They crept quietly through the darkness, using no torches so as not to alert the monster. The woods became thicker and more sinister-looking as they traveled well beyond known boundaries. After many miles of walking through the spooky thicket of gnarled oak trees, they stumbled across a clearing. There stood a log cabin, lantern light glowing inside through filthy, splattered windows. A fire burned in the chimney, but this was no ordinary smoke. It was blood red, with a horrid stench that made the search party struggle to keep from retching. They crept up to the windows and peered inside. They gasped when they saw him. Inside was a giant, 3 times the size of the tallest man you've ever seen. His clothes were filthy, and his protruding, bloodshot eyes were rolled up in ecstasy. He sat on the floor beside a basket of human arms and legs, pulling them apart with bloody fingers, slurping them down like chicken bones. And there in the fireplace, in a boiling pot, was a human heart. The search party had seen enough. They carefully backed away from the cabin, then ran back home to tell everyone that the stories were true. There was a cannibal giant in the forest, and if he wasn't stopped, all the people would be wiped off the earth. There was no option but to trap and kill him. So the villagers joined together and dug a deep hole in the forest, like they would for a bear, but much deeper for the giant's size. They strung a thick net along the bottom to ensnare the giant. They covered the top with wooden poles, then a thin blanket of tree branches and leaves. And when they were done, they sent the fastest and bravest warrior back to that awful cabin to lure the cannibal giant out. The warrior pounded on the giant's door. "Come out, you ugly monster! Try and catch me!" Then he ran off as the door exploded open. He could hear that giant thundering through the forest behind him, swatting away the trees with loud cracks, his hot, putrid breath filling the air. But the warrior was faster, and after several miles made it back to the trap. Light on his feet, the warrior skirted across the hidden opening, but the giant wasn't so lucky. The ground suddenly collapsed beneath him, and he plummeted into the hole with a scream! The community gathered around and gazed into the trap. There swung the giant, ensnared in the net, arms flailing at the sky. "You can't keep me here," he yelled. "When I get out, you're all dead." The village leaders arrived with piles of dry branches and lit torches, aware now of his fate. The giant cannibal laughed. "You think you can kill me? Go ahead and try. I'll just come back and keep eating all of you. And all your children and your children's children forever." The villagers piled their branches on top of him. They poured in a barrel of fish oil for good measure, then threw the torches in the hole. The trap exploded in flames like a portal to hell itself. But the cannibal giant didn't cry out. Instead, his horrible laughter echoed through the forest for hours on end. They let the fire burn for 4 days. Then they took long poles and stirred up the ashes just to make sure no part of the giant was left. As they continued stirring, ashes floated into the sky and transformed into small winged insects by the hundreds and then thousands. These insects swarmed the villagers, biting skin and sucking blood. The villagers' sweet blood made the bugs breed like wildfire. From that day on, the community would never know another peaceful night without that annoying buzzing and biting of what we now call mosquitoes. So the next time a mosquito bites you, don't feel so bad about smashing it to bits, because it might be more than just a pest. It might be the cannibal giant back for another evening's snack. Now, you may be wondering, where did this story come from? Although the version we always heard was set in the South, the origin story is a Tlingit legend from Alaska. Anyone who's spent summers in Alaska has experienced the constant swarms of mosquitoes. They are so prevalent, some Alaskans call them the unofficial state bird. The Tlingit are indigenous peoples of the northwest coast of North America. Their territory once stretched from the Portland Canal in British Columbia into southern Alaska. Mosquitoes have been part of Tlingit folk culture for centuries, inspiring ceremonial masks and headdresses. There are also Tlingit totem poles telling the story of the cannibal giant, known as Gertil. In fact, the cannibal giant image on these poles was ceremoniously fed each day by the Tlingit. They believe fortune favored those who recognize the giant's power and immortality. There are several versions of this story told among the Tlingit people. Another telling has the giant killed, dismembered, and burnt by the vengeful brother of one of his victims. In this version, the brother uses the giant's own knife to threaten the giant's son, asking where his father's weakness is. When told the giant's heart is in his left heel, the brother stabs him there, slaying him. In all versions, the ending is the same. The ashes turn into mosquitoes. Some folklorists have drawn parallels from the above version to the David and Goliath story in the Bible. Others note the heart being in the left heel recalls the Greek myth of Talos, the bronze giant. After being passed through the oral tradition for generations, this version was finally written down by an English author in the late 1800s. An adaptation appeared in the book American Indian Myths and Legends by Richard Erdos and is told by storytellers to this day. We hope you've enjoyed this story from the Moonlit Road podcast. Please tell your friends, family, and complete strangers about us by rating and reviewing our podcast. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter, now X, at The Moonlit Road. Visit our website, themoonlitroad.com, for many more stories not on the podcast. This episode was adapted from Folklore and produced by Craig Dominey. Your storyteller was me, Veronica Byrd. Audio production by Henry Howard. The Moonlit Road podcast is a production of the Moonlit Road, LLC. See you next time.
That concludes this walk down the Moonlit Road. But you can always come back on your own. It will be here all year round, brimming with captivating and spooky tales for the whole family. The Moonlit Road can be found on the World Wide Web at www.themoonlitroad.com. The stories are always chilling, and the moon is always full. On the Moonlit Road.